Hi everyone. I want to do an update. I was just watching a YouTube channel that I really enjoy, Days of French and Swedish, and it's a great channel. The quality of the video just it goes up and up all the time. The YouTuber does a good job, really good job editing, and it's just a pleasure to watch. But he just did a video talking about letting yourself down, and he was talking about how he hasn't put too many videos on this particular channel lately. And I was thinking, oh gosh, yeah, I probably shouldn't just let it go on my channel. I sometimes feel like I don't have much to update, but sometimes just doing any update for people who are maybe looking for ways to procrastinate, any update is good. So he talked about language goals and how are you letting your language goals control you? Are you controlling your language goals? Are they benefiting you or hurting you? And I think everyone is a language learner. You have ups and downs, and you kind of feel like you have these goals. And of course, sometimes you don't really focus on making the goals, setting the goals, and you just kind of, maybe they're abstract, they're foggy. You don't spend too much time thinking about goals in particular per se. So I think that's a situation where you could maybe fall into the trap of maybe your goals are not helping you and maybe making you feel a little bit bad. Having abstract goals, I think, is okay because I tend to have abstract goals. I'm not a very organized person, so it kind of goes to my personality. But I definitely see the benefit in goals. Anything, and obviously anything that you can do to keep yourself motivated and having a positive attitude and enjoying language learning is good. So my goal with when I look at my I think with anyone studying a foreign language, but when I look at right now, I'm studying Chinese and Korean, and I have a lot of experience with Japanese and, well, it goes back a ways, but German too, and then Spanish some. And I think to myself, what am I doing with Chinese, with Korean? It's like your lifetime is limited. Will I ever get to a point in these languages where I'll be happy? Because I have these other languages that I'm not using, but I've achieved a really good level in, and it took a long time to do. Why not go back to those, enjoy those, develop those, instead of being like the new idiot on the block? I can be someone who's been around, knows the ropes, and is someone respected. Like when I go into a Japanese learning classroom, I know everything for depending on the level, but I know so much, and so of course I get lots of respect. That's really nice. Whereas when I walk into the like a language that I'm just starting out on, I don't know how they look at me in per se, but I sure feel dumb. I can say that much. I sure feel dumb. Yeah, so I guess I really am not dumb though when it comes to foreign languages, and my other languages, even though they are of limited benefit, there's still definitely a benefits to me with the new languages. So for example, I'm doing my Chinese language class every week, and we're using Zoom, and we're doing it once a week. So it's limited, but it's it's a long session. I think we start at 7:10 and we go until about 9:30. So it goes on for a while, and I'm going to pause the video real quick. Okay, so that was my air conditioner going off. I live in Arizona, and it's still hot here. It's like 90 degrees as a high is quite normal still. It is getting cooler though, so winter is still coming, and it is possible for it to snow here. But that was my air conditioner. It's a little loud, so I wanted to turn it off. So I have this Chinese language class, and I'm enjoying it. It's going okay. It's a nice supplement to my Chinese language studies, of course, and I definitely get something out of this class, whether it's cultural or some review or some new grammar that I don't get otherwise, because I'm not very big on studying grammar, for one. And of course, we have a native teacher anyway. So my big advantage coming from with my other language background is, of course, Japanese. I studied the Chinese characters when I studied Japanese for years and years, and it was a horrible ordeal. But after about 5 or 6 years of suffering, and diligently applying myself, with flashcards or whatever, it gets better. Your brain somehow adjusts to these strange shapes that are never ending. And so when I study Chinese, it's very easy for me to learn, even though the simplified Hanzi are definitely different than Japanese. It sticks really well. I don't have to try too hard to remember it. So in class, we have to do homework and we present. And there's another, actually, there's another student who's native Japanese, half Native American, but raised Japanese, went to Japanese language school too, knows her kanji really well. Yeah, so she presents and she kicks ass. She's a great student, and in addition to having that advantage of the educational background, she's a really, really good student. You can tell. Kicks ass, and I think that and the teacher just is like, "Wow, you did such a good job," and everyone else thinks, "Wow, she did such a good job." And then I go, and I'm not Japanese, so to look at me, I don't know if other people really know how much time I put into Japanese, but I can just sit there, and I did this. When we present, we're basically reading our homework answers and what we wrote in Chinese. And when I was doing it at first, I was writing both the Chinese characters and the pinyin because, well, to be diligent, to be a good student, and I thought that's what she wanted. But she did say, you don't have to do the pinyin if you can read the Chinese characters correctly when you present to class. And I'm thinking I probably can do that. And it would save a lot of time. It would basically half my homework time to not write that pinyin, especially because when you write the pinyin, you have to get the tones right. And I don't remember the tones very well. So this is like a great shortcut for me. So I did the homework and I stopped doing the pinyin. I noticed this other girl stopped doing the pinyin too when she presents, and she presents so perfectly. I think she studies the tones and can say the tones really well. I just say it. If I know the tone, I'll say the tone or try to. If I don't, then I just say it flat. And anyway, so I just read it in class, and she. She said, "Good job to the Chinese, the half Japanese student." But I think she understands that other students probably look at her and like, "Oh, she does so well because she has this advantage. She's half Japanese." So, well, this guy doesn't. I'm old and I don't have that advantage, and yet I sit there and I just read it off perfectly, just like paragraph of Chinese characters. They're simple vocabulary, so it's not too challenging, but it is absolutely, the other students can't do that at all, and that's normal. A few months into studying Chinese or Japanese, and you're really struggling with recognizing the Chinese characters. That your brain has not adjusted yet at all, and I can just blow right through it. It was so easy. I was nervous. I was very nervous because you're presenting. It's like, oh gosh, what if I forget? What if I get something wrong? Then suddenly the teacher's going to be like, "Oh, you didn't do your homework correctly. You're trying to do the shortcut. You're not you're not up to snuff for this. Redo the homework, submit it again." I'm so sorry. Okay. But instead of I did it fine. I did it, except for I'm not sure that my tones were off. Most of it was flat. But she is, that's getting the tones right in addition to the actual pronunciation, I think is just way above and beyond what the teacher is expecting. And she's just like, "Wow, you did so good." And then she used me as the example to say, "Look, this is what you can do if you study. And if you know the material this well, then you don't have to write the pinyin," because students were kind of confused when they had to write the pinyin or when they didn't. And I'm like, it's not that hard if you can read the Hanzi, but I guess it didn't enter their minds that this was a thing, that you could read it without pinyin, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, anyway, so she used me as the example to show what you could do, whereas Ikumi, the half Japanese student, who people probably are just saying, "Oh, she can do that because she's half Japanese." Yeah, anyway, that was kind of good. Anyway, so that's my my update for my Chinese class. I'm really happy, obviously, with my with reading Chinese, and that was a good motivation. But I was I still compare myself. It's so when you're starting a new language, it's so natural, I think, to compare your new language to your old languages and kind of question, should I be learning a new language? Should I just go back to these other languages that I put so much time into, but I'm not getting much benefit out of because, well, I'm studying this new language instead and putting my time into that. And I was a little depressed, but then at the end, I was I was going running, and at the end of the jog, I felt better about it, and I wanted to continue. And I was thinking, even if my Chinese never reaches the level of my Japanese or German, that's definitely okay. Even I think when we start out studying foreign languages, a lot of us have small goals, and just having like a very basic knowledge of a foreign language is really cool and opens doors just in terms of your own life and just, that culture. And if you ever travel or just, people talk about, if you like foreign languages, people talk about that language or whatever, you have something to, to kind of relate to. It's good. And so no matter, I think that as long as whatever I'm doing with Chinese, as long as it sticks, I do want to stick. I don't want to disappear. Like I studied Korean for one semester about 5 years ago, and it was all gone. Completely all gone. And that's just too sad. So I want to stick with it enough that it sticks. It goes into long-term memory, whatever I do learn. But even if I don't get too advanced, that's okay. I think I should be happy. Back to goals. So days of French and Swedish. He was talking about goals, and then he had a goal. Matt versus Japan. He had an experience with Matt versus Japan. Just so impressed by what Matt was able to do with Japanese. He wanted to do that with Swedish, and he had this goal of 3 hours a day Swedish, and to really do well. And lately, well, he's not meeting that goal. He's super busy. Of course, he's still getting 1 hour of studying in a day with Swedish, and clearly, if you're busy, that's really good. So. It's just a little bit of letdown. He wasn't too depressed about it, but he had this video kind of talking about goals, how that it still felt bad that he wasn't meeting his goals. And then, maybe you should evaluate your goals. And I totally agree with that. That makes so much sense. If you are a goal-oriented person, if you do have goals, if you kind of vague goals like me, it makes sense to make your goals work for you instead of against you. And so I was just thinking, maybe I will reevaluate my goals, because if you don't reevaluate your goals, and maybe that wasn't a realistic goal to begin with, then that's when I think when the goal will turn into something that is hurting you as opposed to helping you. So how often to reevaluate goals? I'm thinking once a month, because you can make progress within a month, 30 days, and it's not too long that it feels vague or distant. You can kind of have something even be very specific, I think, with even me. Who doesn't like making specific goals? Yeah, people talk about concrete goals for studying a language. Like, I want to go to this country to interview this person in that language on this date. I mean, come on, no. No. My goal is maybe, well, I guess my goal is to be conversational. That would be great. And then the other goal is just to have fun. That's the one I know I can achieve. And if I'm not achieving, then there's something's wrong. To have fun with the language, studying the language. So getting conversational, though, that's optional. It may not happen, or it may be depending how you view conversational. But I was thinking that reevaluating the goal once a month seems to make sense. And then probably the first of the month, just like the first of the year, January, you make goals. So first of the month, that's what I'm thinking I'm going to try to do. We'll see if I remember. I might make a reminder on my phone, because I tend to forget. I get distracted. Of course, the first of the month is kind of it makes sense. So I think when the first of the month comes around, I'll probably remember. Yeah, just sit down and just kind of look at goals for that month. Be like, okay, November's goals. There we go. This weekend for Chinese. So I guess at the moment, I was really excited finishing my first book in Korean, but lately, having had my Chinese class and all, I'm really focusing on Chinese. Korean's on the back burner. I don't know how long that it'll stay on the back burner. I may get more interested in again, but there's a lot of reasons to focus on one foreign language. Korean is not at a higher upper, like a good intermediate level, like my Japanese is, where I can kind of just, I don't know. I guess I'm not forgetting it too much, so that's good. It's not like before 5 years ago where I forgot it all. I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, but I think when you study different languages, it's often better to have, at least the recommendation is that maybe you have one advanced, one intermediate, one beginner, definitely not multiple at beginner. Korean is still beginnerish for me. So 2 languages at the beginnerish level seems to make it a little more difficult to focus on. So I'm going to focus on Chinese. And for my Chinese, my strength is the Hanzi. It's because that's where I can kind of borrow from my Japanese studies. My weakness is the tones. Oh, well. So when you study a foreign language, Matt versus Japan, and in one of his videos just talks about grabbing the low-hanging fruit, right? And so the Chinese characters, it's so low-hanging, I was thinking, and I kind of looked to other a lot of people when it comes to Asian languages, they start with Japanese and then kind of do really well or whatever, and then move on to other languages maybe if they want to be polyglots or just are really interested. And so there's a lot of students like that I found. Anyway, so I was thinking, Matt said in his videos he didn't get too detailed on how he was doing it, but I think he was not focusing on the Hanzi because he's so good at it from Japanese that it just will come anyway, which is totally true. But knowing the Hanzi makes learning the vocabulary. I'm noticing this in my own, doing my flashcard reps and whatnot, and just remembering. Knowing the Hanzi really helps you to remember vocabulary easier. So instead of just letting the Hanzi take care of itself, I think I'm going to go ahead and kind of go head on with the Hanzi directly and make that a big priority. And I'm doing something that I would never, or that I did try in Japanese but gave up on. I'm basically I have this app, I forget what it's called. Sticky Study. Sticky Study. And it's kind of an SRS app, but a little different, a little twist. If you're curious, it spaces things out for you, but instead of saying you have this many cards due today, you make a goal, and then for example, I want to learn this, because you'll have a list. It's for studying a list, like in my case, like about 1,000 Hanzi. And I'd say I want to learn these Hanzi, and when do you want to learn it by? I want to learn it in 1 month. Sure, 1,000 Hanzi in 1 month. Yeah, and it says, okay, that's not the recommended time length, but okay, here's how many reps you need to do per day to achieve that goal according to our formula. So I think it adjusts it on how successful you're learning it as you go. Clearly, if you're struggling, if it's too much, then the formula is not going to work. Even if it self-adjusts, if you're just this learning 1,000 Hanzi, if the material is too hard, I don't know. Anyway, so my goal is I'm doing these flashcards, and I'm just basically it's just a straight up 1 Hanzi at a time. Then the side 2 has the pronunciation, which is what my goal is to learn the pronunciation, because the meaning. Well, I want to isolate. I think for flashcards, in my experience, the more you isolate, the more you focus on one thing, the better the flashcard is at doing its job of teaching you that one thing. If you try to learn the meaning, I mean, I am looking at the meaning too, but if you try to learn the meaning, maybe try to learn the words, or maybe a whole sentence on the flashcard, it, while still helpful to make you look at this over and over again, I really think that isolating things down to the smallest bit of information possible on a flashcard makes it more effective. And so that's why I'm doing it this way for the Hanzi. That's not what I did with Japanese. I mean, I did sometimes, but I burned out on it. And the reason I burned out on it is because it's hard and it's a little boring. It gets a little dry. And so how I did learn it with Japanese was basically, was doing this. Actually, I did a lot of rote over time, but combining it with immersion, eventually, and many years. So, but my goal here is a month, not years. Anyway, so I think this actually has much better chance of success than before because, one reason why learning it by rote, learning 1,000 by rote in a month or whatever, is so damn difficult learning maybe like a 50 to 100 by rote in a month becomes much more realistic. The reason why it's so difficult is because you don't have the connections in your brain to really make it stick. And that's why you kind of have to go slowly, maybe just learn by context as you go. Maybe like reading books or manga with hiragana or with pinyin on it. Just take it slow. And learning, of course, learning it in context is wonderful. And that helps you build the connections. But in my case, and I've noticed this with someone else studying Swedish. I think it was Swedish. It was a Germanic language. I think that because I already have this huge kanji knowledge from Japanese, I've got these connections in my brain already. They're just waiting to be tapped, and because it sticks so easily. So I think that's going to work out pretty well. Yeah. Okay. So my goal was 1 month, 1,000, and 1,000 Hanzi. That's the aggressive goal I'm doing right now for Chinese. And I also have, that's not the only thing I have. I kind of want to try, I have this, the Chinese wiki, a grammar wiki. I downloaded a deck for that. And I've gone through it a little bit. I'm not sure how I want to use it, but basically I think I want to go through that. The sentences are there for grammar. That might be good. Again, sentences are not isolating the information down to its smallest component, which is what I like for flashcards. But sometimes maybe maybe for this it's okay. It's not my focus as much as the Hanzi itself, because I want to focus. I think that's going to help my vocabulary the fastest to get that Hanzi down really well. And I also want to do that Chinese wiki grammar deck. We'll see how that goes. I was doing the Spoonfed Chinese deck from Anki. Although I like the deck, I guess I really don't know. I don't know how they developed it. And I know the concept is spoon-fed, but whereas with the grammar wiki, there's a text that I can go in, and I can just read the book, and I can see exactly where they're going with it, what to expect, what's coming next, and I can see how the author is going from one grammar point to one grammar point to one grammar point. Whereas spoon-fed, I'm not sure if it's just like a computer algorithm, just looking at maybe 8,000 sentences and then saying, okay, using this computer algorithm, here we go. We'll order these starting from easier to more difficult. And that's not the same as like a human being like doing it. As a general tool that can work, and it makes it okay, I guess. It's definitely way better than random, but I think I don't want to do that. I don't want to do the spoon-fed deck. I may change my mind and come back to it, but probably not. And then I have a Anki deck that I'm using for class. It's basically just the vocabulary that I encounter on my own, mostly a lot through class. And I am using Link. I'm doing the short stories, and I also downloaded some other stories from the internet in Chinese that I'm reading on Link. And I just started doing this, from Link. I'm adding vocabulary as I go into Anki. So Link I have some frustrations with Link. It's such a pain. That's like, I want to export certain vocabulary. I want to like mark the vocabulary. I guess there's tags you can do. It is doable. I don't know. They just don't make it easy, because you can't just copy and paste. God. Anyway, so I'm leading a Link, and basically when I want to do, I guess, vocabulary mining, because I'm not really doing sentence mining right now. When I want to do vocabulary mining, I have Anki open, and I'm reading the text, and I see a word that I want to remember. I'm using the Chinese input for add-on for Anki is wonderful. I'm using that to just enter that into Anki and make a flashcard. And that makes it a lot more fun. I haven't done too much mining lately. It's been a while since I did mining for Japanese a lot. And I think mining is, at least for Japanese, because I struggle so hard to actually engage native material, but saying like, okay, I'm going to go mine. That kind of gave me some more motivation, more direction. And it's kind of like it, even if I'm struggling really hard with the text, all I got to do is just mine some vocabulary, and then I got I'm done. And that gets my reading in. So that's a good way, I think, to help motivate yourself. That's one of the great benefits of sentence mining, is it helps motivate you to go engage native material. It would be nice if I was trying to do this, find texts, either graded readers or otherwise, that were interesting enough that I would want to go read those texts and make that, it was so enjoyable I would just do it. Unfortunately, the texts are, it's kind of like I feel accomplishment and stuff, but reading, I got some graded readers and I'm reading some native texts, and it's so hard. Either the graded readers are not too hard, but the native texts are too hard, and the graded readers are kind of boring. So, but if you make it into a sentence mining thing, that makes it more fun, I think. So that's a really good thing about sentence or vocabulary mining that helps push you forward in your studies. Okay, guys, that was a long video, and I don't know how much sense it made or if it was how much use it was to you. I hope everyone's doing really well with their studies. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video, maybe.